I'm Alex Hua Tian, Chinese Olympic event rider, and we're here at my stables in leafy Cheshire in the UK, where I'm based with my team of horses. I share the stables also with my girlfriend who's a dressage rider, and we also have a young Chinese dressage rider, Rao Jiayi, based here as well. So why don't you follow me and we'll go meet some of the horses. Let's go have a look. So actually this first one is very interesting. He's younger, he's not one of our top horses yet, but he's a clone, which in our sport is still very new. I think it's very new with everybody. And this is a horse called Trey. You gonna come and say hello, mate? Come on. Come on, Trey. Don't be shy. So Trey is one of 3 clones of a very famous stallion called Chile Morning. Chile Morning won badminton, which is our biggest sporting event, yearly sporting event in the sport of eventing, in 2015 with a British rider, William Fox Pitt. And Trey here is one of 3 clones. So there's Duo, Tres, and Quattro, with 3 different riders, and we're very lucky and very excited to have him here with us. He's only 5, so he's right at the beginning of his career. He's not actually been to a competition yet. He's just starting his training and starting to build a bit of a partnership and trust. As you can see, he's quite an affectionate horse. He quite likes attention. He likes a bit of a cuddle. He's a very talented horse, as a clone, or I guess you could say as a twin of the original Chile Morning. He's carried all of the same talents and the same traits. Looks very much the same. The original Chile Morning was the same color with the white face, very distinctive look, and very talented. So this is actually our only stallion on the yard as well. So he is what we call entire. Most of the male horses here are geldings. So having a stallion around sometimes makes things a little bit challenging. They obviously sometimes have other things on their minds, but we're very lucky with Trey actually. He's quite a well-behaved stallion. He's quite focused when you're riding him, and he's very well behaved on the floor. As you can see, he loves people. So I met Trey's twin brothers when he was 4, when I went to go pick him up from his owner's stables. And the other 2 brothers are with, one of them's with Gemma Tattersall's, who's a British rider, team rider, and the other one is with Julia Krajewski, who's a German team rider, who actually is the individual gold medalist from the Tokyo Olympics. And I think the goal for Trey's owners, Chris and Lisa Stone, are to have these 3 horses maybe one day at a championships together. And I think for them to optimize that opportunity, they felt that having them with 3 riders from 3 different nations gave these horses each their own individual opportunity to be able to do that. So we're very excited to have him. He's a lovely horse, very affectionate. Let's go on around here. We have some of Sarah Rao's horses. She's given most of her horses stable names from The Lion King and from Disney. So we have Mufasa and Stitch. So the horses here normally have 2 names. So you have the horse's stable name, and the horse's competition name. So this is a young horse owned by Mrs. Yi, an owner of mine in Shanghai. He's called Buddy, spelt B-O-H-D-I. And Buddy, the Buddy tree is a type of fig tree, the type of fig tree that apparently Buddha gained enlightenment under. And Mrs. Yi, Buddy's owner, is Buddhist. So his competition name, talking about the different names that the horses have, is Manjushri. Manjushri is one of the very famous figures from Buddhist mythology. And then he also has a Chinese name. So my horses here at Pinfold Stables tend to have 3 names, which does start to get a little bit confusing. They have their official competition name. They also have their stable name, which is basically their nickname, what we call them at home. And then they also have their Chinese names, which is something that we started in 2008 to try and help fans and audiences in China connect to each of these wonderful different horses and to understand that each of these horses have very different personalities. And really that's at the core of our sport, and the core of what we do is working with these different animals who all have very different personalities and who all take something a little bit different in their daily training and in our approach with each of them to be able to achieve the goals that we want to achieve. Next door we have Dennis. So Dennis is another young horse owned by Sean Mailer and Andrew Earlham. These two are actually related, so they're dam sire. So they're Lao Lao. Their Lao Lao is, no, Lao Ye, their Lao Ye are the same, is a horse called Ramiro B. So their dam sire is their mother's father, are both the same. And Dennis is 6, so he's a year older than Buddy over there. And so he's also at the beginning of his career. As riders, we're not only focused on our older horses competing in current and upcoming championships, we're also investing our time and our energy into our next generation of superstars. You know, obviously we've got the Hangzhou Asian Games coming up, we have the Paris Olympic Games coming up, but in 2026 and 2028 we have the Asian Games in Japan, and of course the LA Olympics in 2028. And your partnership with horses takes years to develop, and so you have to be looking at championships many years ahead to be able to develop the horses and the partnership and the horsepower that you need and you want to be successful at that time. Good boy, Dennis. And then over here we have a very special horse. Don Don, you're going to come and say hello. He is a little bit shy, this one. You going to come and say hello? Come on, Don. Come on. Here we go. So this is Don, or to his fans, because he probably has twice the number of fans that I have in China. This is Tang, who is the horse that I took to the Rio Olympic Games and finished 8th, and to the Tokyo Olympic Games just last year. He's been a very, very special horse for me and for the team here. Come on, don't be shy, mate. Come on. Good boy. I have to pretend I have some treats. Keep your head out to say hello. He came to the stables as a 5-6-year-old. We didn't know how good a horse he was going to be at that time, but we worked with him and he continued to develop. He wasn't my first choice horse to take to the Rio Olympic Games. I had an older horse, more experienced horse called Harbour Pilot C, or Pai Da Xing, that I wanted to take, but was 17 at the time and just started to feel his age in the months leading up to those games, to Rio Olympics in 2016. And Don was 9, relatively young, quite new to the level, very talented, but a bit of an unknown quantity. And in the end, we decided that taking Don was the right decision, both in terms of welfare for Harbour Pilot C, but also in terms of competitiveness, with Don coming up the levels and being quite competitive and successful that spring. Who's that rolling? Got a little... Might want to just stick the camera in there quickly. I know, he's getting up now. He's got like a little baby elephant having a roll in there. So we decided to take Don in the end, and he gave us incredible championships for a horse that was still very young. I think he was one of the youngest horses in the field at 9. To finish 8th was beyond my wildest dreams at that time, and a tremendous achievement for him. And with the lifespans that horses have, to compete in 2 Olympic Games is very, very rare. And to compete in 2 and to qualify for the individual final twice is also very, very special. So, you know, he's 15 now, Don. He might hopefully go to the World Championships this year in Italy. And, you know, he's probably coming towards the end of his career. But we're very grateful to have him, and he's a very special horse to have around, aren't you, Don? And you're being very brave having your head out. So Don is what we would call a little bit head shy. Horses are very sensitive around their faces, around their eyes, and Don would be a horse that would be a little bit frightened of things around his head. So to have his head out of the stable door with all of you guys here just shows that he's in a moment of particular happiness and contentment, eh? Because normally he'd be with strangers around, he'd be hid at the back of the stable. Wouldn't you, my friend? Good boy. Right, leave you, Don, to your hay. Come down here. We have Hamlet here, and this is a good horse here. Hello, Chocs. So Chocs is quite sensitive. Are you going to come and say hello? I think we might have just disturbed a little nap. You going to come and say hello, Chocs? So Chocs is owned by Mrs. E, and is a very special horse. He's probably the most talented horse I've sat on. And he's hopefully going to go to the Hangzhou Asian Games which were supposed to be this year in September 2022, but obviously postponed for now. So we're just waiting to hear what the new dates are for the Asian Games. Preparing for a championships, preparing a horse for a championships is not a snap your finger and go. We have woken him up. He's just going to have a wee now. Good boy. Yeah, so it normally takes months and years to plan a championships, to plan a successful championships campaign. You normally want to have, as a rider, you would normally like to have a number of horses that you have qualified and you can have as part of your preparation. Like, good boy, Chocs. Like any sport and any athlete, human as well, injuries are part of the sport, part of our world. We do everything we can to, good boy. We have just woken him up, so he's being a little bit grumpy. Hey? Not happy. Caught you in your mid-afternoon nap. So injuries are a part of the sport, and so having a team of horses is really important. Having a team of horses aiming for each championships, but also a team of horses, of younger horses, looking to fill your older horse's place in the future is also really important. And although Chocs is my number one choice for Hangzhou Asian Games, we also have Hamlet, owned by Vivian Gu, Spike, also owned by Vivian Gu as clear backups, and potentially some other horses as well. So Chocs is another personality horse. He is hugely enthusiastic. He loves his job. He's extremely talented in all three phases for eventing, and he always gives 110%. And actually, sometimes as a rider, I would rather that he gave a little bit less. Sometimes he's a little bit extra. He jumps a bit big, or he moves a bit big and gallops a bit fast, and actually sometimes he runs himself into trouble, or I'm feeling a little bit out of control and he takes over. Luckily, he's talented enough to take over and normally do things in the right way. But as a rider, in terms of my partnership with him, most of what I do is actually telling him to do a little bit less and to listen to me a little bit more. And that's the great challenge with equestrian sports as a profession. You have to have a team of horses to be able to do it at a higher level. Injuries and other factors are a part of our sport like any other sport. And so therefore, you have to work as a rider with different horses. Different horses have different physical talents. Different horses have very different personalities. And as a rider, you have to be able to work with these different animals in a way that suits them. Chox is a very strong personality. Don is also a very strong personality, but in very, very different ways. And so it's important for me as a rider to recognize their differences and try and work with them in a way that they are happy to work with me. And that's the great skill and great challenge in our sport. Is these are big, powerful, very sensitive animals, and you can't expect to perform, you can't expect to do what you want to do, and you can't expect to perform at a higher level without their consent. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. They are too big and too strong and too powerful and too strong characters to let you force them into anything. And so it comes down to trust, respect, responsibility, compassion, the values of horsemanship that we were talking about before, to work with each of these personalities. Chox, you're showing a lot of compassion back, mate. I'm trying. No? He's very grumpy about being woken up. And then over here we have Spike. So Spike's competition name is PSH Convivial. And then his stable name is Spike because his mane is always a mess, always spiky, always standing up on end. And his Chinese name is Ling Xiwang, given to him by his owner Vivian Gu. And Spike is quite a different horse for me because my other horses are all quite big, quite tall, quite rangy animals. Spike is almost a little bit small for me, quite fiery, quite punchy, plenty of personality, as you can see. And a real joy to ride. I really enjoy riding this one. Spike was actually my first choice horse for the Tokyo Olympics. Don't know what you're looking at there, Spike. I think Spike's looking at the dogs lying down and decided to be offended by it. What are you offended by, Spike? What's the matter with you? So Spike was actually my first choice horse for the Tokyo Olympics, but picked up a really small injury in the week leading up to it, which was a real shame for him. But he's a great horse nonetheless. He's back from his small injury and so far having a pretty successful 2022. Probably not my first choice for the Asian Games for Hangzhou because Spike's strength is his jumping phases, whereas at the Hangzhou Asian Games, the level of competition is at a lower level at 2-star, where the dressage becomes much more important. And although Spike's dressage is very good, That's probably not his strength, not his passion. So each horse has different strengths and advantages and disadvantages, and it's all about working with those, trying to improve weaknesses, and yeah, trying to develop your partnership. He's a horse that I'm very close to because I took him to the Jakarta Asian Games and we won a individual bronze medal together in 2018. Because of a few different factors, we weren't able to take the team of people that we normally rely on to help us care for the horses and make sure that the horses are in the best shape possible. So I wasn't able to take any of my team with me that normally look after Spike. So I was riding Spike and grooming for Spike at those games, and which I have to say actually was really hard work, but was something that I really enjoyed doing with just the one horse, just spending the time together, building a bit of a relationship, and I think that's something that I try to talk about quite a lot in promoting the sport in China is that building your partnership with a horse, being competitive with a horse, developing the trust with a horse is not just about the time you sat in the saddle, training and competing and exercising together. Just as much of your partnership comes from the ground. Spending time with the horse, giving the horse, feeding the horse, brushing the horse, all of the tasks in terms of the daily care. Looking at the horse in the eye, giving the horse a pat, just such simple things like that come together to build the network of relationship and trust that you rely on when you're riding. And so often around the world, not just in China, equestrian sport is seen as this aspirational, even sometimes this elitist activity, and the activities that you're doing on the ground, the tasks that the horse relies on you for their care, are seen as not the rider's job. And actually it's very much the rider's job. It's very much the rider's responsibility to make sure that the horse is well cared for and well looked after. So from Spike and I hope you've enjoyed this little tour of Pinfold Stables. It's a wonderful facility. The horses are very happy here. We're very happy here as a team. And it's a little bit of China in leafy Cheshire.